Damn, it's hot. I used to call these Lewis's light as air biscuits because if you let them sit around too long without putting the butter on the top, some of the steam comes out. They'll just go floating off the plate. This is when you put the butter on. But, doesn't that look good? What you think?
I think I have to take one to work.
She's gonna take the best. Yes, she did. One thing Marlene knows is how to pick the best biscuit. Bye, Marlene.
Bye.
Have fun. Don't let them beat you up too much.
All right, I will.
Marlene came into the restaurant. When the restaurant first opened, one of the highlights of our lunch menu was a souffle omelet. And I had a copper bowl and a big balloon whip, and then I spent the whole lunchtime beating them damn eggs and putting them in the oven.
I ordered an omelet, which I didn't know at the time that they go next door and buy the eggs, I think, before they actually started.
That's not true.
It was some prolonged procedure to make an omelet. So after waiting for my entire lunch hour for the omelet, which never came, I had to leave, and I was really mad about it.
Marlene was born with no patience, and she has even less than she had when she was born. Now, she says she never got it, and I said she got it, but she got it later than she wanted to. What the truth is, I guess, doesn't matter.
Louis came out, and I started blasting him about my missed lunch opportunity. And he was like, I'm sorry, can I buy you another glass of wine? So then we started talking. We started dating right away.
We started drinking. Shouldn't have. I should have been in the kitchen, but it worked out okay. I'm lucky to find her, or lucky she found me to hear her tell it.
I see them always as a pair. I mean, I think of them as they, always Louis and Marlene. That's how they came into my world. She was the best hype person ever for a restaurant, and he had her, and she totally got what he was trying to do, and she could put it into words.
Marlene has a phenomenal marketing sense. She was great at getting the press to know what Louis was doing, to know what was going on down in Charleston.
Food writers dubbed him the man who helped lead the revival of Southern cuisine and the spiritual general of the new Charleston chef. Let's welcome Louis Osteen, chef and owner of Louis's Restaurant and Bar. Is that right?
And bar.
And bar.
It's important to be a bar.
In
Yes.
Charleston, South Carolina.
Exactly.
What Louis has really done is, I think, applied Southern traditions and Southern ingredients to some basic French tenets of cooking. His cooking is very classic. And Louis doesn't like anything pretentious.
He brought sort of that continental cooking background into a kitchen where he wanted to showcase what was available in the Low Country in a way that was modern, contemporary.
I learned to cook by cooking. I was really fortunate to get my first job in the kitchen with Francois Delcroix in Atlanta, who was a French chef. And he was really tough, and he was really insistent on things being the best they could be. And it didn't matter the cost of it first. It mattered always the quality of it first.
I would pay an inordinate amount of money to eat his she crab soup right now.
Whole fried flounder still stands out in my mind as one of the singular pieces of fish of my lifetime.
He did crab cakes, and they were amazing, of course, but I asked him what was in them, and it's just mayonnaise and crab. That's all a crab cake should be. And I have lived by that.
Brown oyster stew. People like it.
Saveur was throwing an event on Highway 30A in the Gulf Coast of Florida, AKA the Redneck Riviera. And Louis was great. He gave a great demo. He cooked she crab soup and shrimp and grits, and he was fun and funny, but understated. And I was like in awe, because I was so uncomfortable and he was so at ease.
We had Louis and Marlene come up, and he did a special event, guest chef thing, and it said Pâté of the South. I had no idea what that was. He pulled out a tub of pimento cheese, and that was the pâté of the South, and some crackers. You know, it's like taking pimento cheese or shrimp and grits and things that people had always eaten and nobody really paid attention to, except that it was good and you ate it and it was part of the fabric of your life. and just sort of shining a magnifying glass on it and saying, no, really, this is pretty amazing.
You want the freshest food. You want food that's pretty cheap. So it just makes sense then to use the foods that grow around you. In this case, it's the low country. And it's where Paulie's happens to be, is in the low country.
We just fell in love with Paulie's Island, and we decided, okay, we're going to move to Paulie's Island. And that restaurant was a huge success.
So I loved the Polly's restaurant. You know, in Polly's, there's like a huge highway that's got like 8 lanes. And then all of a sudden you pulled into this oasis. I loved going there.
It was called the Paulie's Island Inn. The food was good. The food was as good as you'll find there.
That place also had an aura. You know, that's where people wanted to be. When you were there, you felt like you were part of a particularly singular group of people because it had a cool vibe.
It was like somebody took a New York idea of a Southern restaurant and put it there, but it worked because it was still fun and funky, and like you could still take off your shoes in the fish camp bar and dance around if you wanted to, or be very buttoned up and have your white tablecloth over here and watch the people doing that.
Marlene was wide open. She ran the front of the house. He ran the back of the house.
Louis was a dining room presence, which was a really different thing at the time. You know, chefs mostly didn't spend time out in the dining room. And he's such a gregarious dude.
How you doing?
Better now that you're here. You want a beer?
I do.
Amstel Light?
That'll work.
He single-handedly established Amstel Light in the American market. His relationship with Amstel Light could well be second only to his relationship to Marlene. I felt for a long time when we first met him, I felt that it grew on the end of his arm. And you know, he could drink 18 of them and you wouldn't see any difference in him than after the first of them.
Good beer, hands down.
When he would appear in the dining room at Louis's, he never had to ask for it. It was always there. I can't think of Louis without Amstel Light.
We never saw them because they were putting all of their blood, sweat, and tears into that Polly's Island Inn.
I think Louis was pretty content being a really good cook and having a really good restaurant. And I think that Marlene may have had higher aspirations.
There was a banquet we went to see in Charleston from Paulie's Island to see about opening a second restaurant in Charleston, which would have been a good idea.
And after he looked at our proposal and our performance and P&Ls and all that, he just kind of reared back in his chair and started laughing at us. And he said, nobody goes out to eat in Charleston. They eat at home.
Charleston still wasn't the #1 tourist destination that it is now. And I think it took a little bit for Charlestonians to come to understand that, you know, you didn't need necessarily fancy ingredients to have an extraordinarily fancy experience.
Charleston was off the map, and an oyster roast was off the map, and so it took a while to get to a place where somebody like Louis could be appreciated. You know, somebody with a heavy Southern accent from Anderson, South Carolina, who Julia Child loved, but it took a while for the media to catch up.
I've learned some things, and I think the most important lesson that I've learned is it's really important to know how much you don't know. Because if you have an overinflated self-image, and a lot of folks do and get it early on, it tends to inhibit learning. If you already know a lot, you don't learn a lot. And if you don't learn as you go along, you're just not going to succeed in this business. It's important to know what you know, but more important to know what you don't know.
The sign says Fabulous Las Vegas, but it's not so fabulous these days. Sin City's economy was built on gaming and tourism, but in the recession, that hand was a bust.
And I remember him bringing the ideas of Vegas to show us all, to get our feedback, to tell us about how excited he was about this opportunity. It seemed like it's great to have someone underwrite something, but you're going to a place where you don't know your suppliers, you don't know the work team that's available to you. You're moving into an environment where none of your support structure is there. I think the timing was not great in terms of the economy.
We opened 2 gorgeous, beautiful restaurants on the day or the month that the Las Vegas economy started to crumble into the worst economy in the nation.
The whole economy crashed. The whole Vegas scene kind of imploded. It was just devastating. It was so sad and such bad luck because a month before had felt, God, they've finally done it. They're finally going to get their due. This is a really, really sad turn of events.
Right.
They're like the phoenix. I mean, they do keep coming back.
Darling.
Louis has the art, and he definitely has the science.
Here I go, hobbling along.
But what he didn't have was that other crucial piece, which was luck. You know, he came a little too early, and then he ran out a little too soon. Otherwise, he would be the biggest deal.
He made us feel comfortable with using our ingredients and to taking a joyful expression in putting the simplest of things on a plate.
Life is long, and at the same time it's short, and you want to have as much fun as you can, because if you're not having fun in the kitchen, then it's a hard job.
It's good friends, good people, good alcohol. I like Amstel Light. Marlene likes wine, and good food. Not in that order especially, but as a conglomerate, those things. And good plates to put them on. There are two things you have to know about biscuits. You never take a knife to a biscuit except to butter it. And when the biscuits are served, they're served fresh out of the oven. This is sorghum. It's a little bit like the sugar cane, except it's not sugar cane. So you take a little bit of soft butter, and you mix it in with your sorghum, and then you put the sorghum right on there. And you eat them kind of like this. Good, real good.